Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Ritu podcast show. I'm back again with very interesting guests for you, and I hope you would enjoy this podcast as well. I hope all of you had a great summer break and had a great time with your families. And now here I am again with you with a very interesting guest today for you. Please welcome Lizzett Cuervo. She is an ADHD presenter, educator coach, and an executive functions specialist. We will get into all the details of what she does and how she does. But before that, I am going to bring it to Lizzett for herself to introduce herself a little bit. So, Lizzett, welcome to my show. Thank you for coming. And could you please tell a little bit about yourself to my viewers?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. So my name is Lizette, and let's see, I was a school teacher for like 15 years. I am a first generation Cuban American, and I love all things ADHD. I grew up in New Jersey, went to Rutgers, just have a child that grew up in New Jersey as well. Love reading, am fascinated with Ritu's work and books seriously just completely changed my life. So hopefully some of the stuff that we talk about today can help give other people ideas to change their lives as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Lizette. Thanks for that introduction. And that's exactly what my podcast is about. So let's just quickly get into our podcast because I know we have a lot to talk about in very less time. So, why wouldn't you tell me a little bit, Lizette, about your journey and what inspired you to become an ADHD educator, coach, and an executive function specialist?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I was a teacher for a long time and I worked with special needs students. And I always saw a need, a deficit for executive function, meaning time management and organization within my community. And so I also felt that my organizational systems were very not good. And a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I didn't know what that meant. I thought I was just going to take a pill and just be done with it. And that made me very sad because I felt like I didn't know who I was and I felt very kind of like I was a mistake. And so I just started listening to all these different books, like Gabor Mate's Scattered Minds. And I was like, oh wow, like that's me. That sounds amazing. And then I just love that title, Scattered. And I started searching for more things. And I came across all of these books called like Smart But Scattered. And I was like, hey, that's me.
Right.
So so I started learning about executive function skills. And that single-handedly changed my life because it's so much more of a empathetic lens to look at everyone's deficits, challenges, and great successes with. Instead of being so comparative, you're able to just really look beyond and just work together with everyone. So that's yeah.
Wow, that's great, Lizette. And it's interesting that you use the term executive function, Lizette, because to be honest, I believe I can speak for all my viewers here that we all have heard about ADHD, probably used it even loosely to describe someone's peculiar behavior. But what exactly is executive function? Like, if you have to define it, and how does it align with, especially people who have ADHD?
Okay. So to be honest with you, even though I was a special educator, I had never heard the term executive function. I thought it was just to be an executive. I don't know. But basically, what happens is this. So when you have ADHD, it's sort of like, I want to say a performance disorder. So
Mhm.
it's ADHD means that you have an intention deficit disorder. You intend to do things, but you just can't perform. And the reason that that is because your executive functions are kind of like all over the place. So executive functions are like impulse control, time management, organization, your working memory, flexibility, to name a few. And
Right.
so as an executive, with someone who has executive function challenges, what happens is, when you go to the airport, the air traffic controller that
Yeah.
kind of like tells the planes which way to go, which way to move. So
Right.
that is what happens with executive functions in your brain.
Mm,
Executive functions are your air traffic controller.
right.
But can you imagine if planes start colliding because everything happens at the same time? So you don't have the organizational systems to really accomplish what you want to, or you could be late because you're time blind. Like it all depends. Everybody's different. But I will
Okay.
tell you one thing, some people are really great. Like usually, let's say if you're always late and your time management isn't really great, chances are you're a lot more flexible. Like if someone else is late, you kind of like understand it doesn't ruin your day.
Right. Right.
So everyone has executive function challenges, whether they have ADHD or they don't have
I
it.
was going to say that we can all use, or we can use these tools to enhance our productivity, because somewhere down the line we all, a lot of us, and I'm speaking for myself,
Sure.
suffer from, organizational difficulty, right? So to say. So, but since we're on the topic, Lizette, of ADHD and executive function, how would you define ADHD to a person who may have really heard the term, but not really exactly know what it is, or doesn't know someone around them who has ADHD? I think it will just help the people to understand really what ADHD is, and that way they are able to identify or recognize people around them or in their family with that condition, and how to manage around it.
Okay. Well, that's a great question. ADHD can manifest in different ways for different people. Uh, Usually people think of ADHD and they think of like a little boy who's hyper,
Mm,
who doesn't sit still, who just can't pay attention. Um, but actually there's also that's the attentive type, the impulsive
mm,
type.
I see.
The type of like person that just can't sit still, that wants to pay attention to absolutely everything, and is really excited. And then when you tell them to like sit down or calm down, they get agitated because they just feel things differently. And then there's the inattentive type, which is sometimes you see some people that are paying attention. It's like the typical, I tell you this for like for children, but this is all for adults as well. People that look like they're paying attention and you're like, wow, what a great student. Look how they pay attention because they're really gazing in your eyes. But what you don't know is that they're thinking about what they're going to do at the mall.
Yeah.
School is over. Like, and if
Right.
you ask them to, they just can't remember, but they
Yeah.
behave well. And so
Right.
unfortunately, the people that the students that do that, sometimes the teachers don't realize how much they need help concentrating and staying on task and completing assignments as well. But since they're usually not a behavioral problem, sometimes they kind of fall between the cracks.
Yeah.
And so,
Understood.
some parents might think, oh, my child is really, really hyper. They must have ADHD. That may not necessarily be the case.
Right.
Just
Right.
like someone is very calm, you think that they don't have ADHD.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a combined. Nowadays we're seeing something very different, which there is a doctor called Dr. Ned Hallowell, and
Mm-hmm.
he coined this term actually called VAST, which
Mm,
is variable attention stimulus trait.
I
And what
see.
that means is that people have difficulty paying attention because there's so many different stimuluses coming around. So for instance, now with the internet, now with email, everything that you need to answer, all of the extra systems that are put onto you if you have like an assignment, it isn't just writing it out. It's more like you may have to listen to something, write it out, call somebody back, email them. Then you're on Instagram, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Snapchat. It's overload.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, while they don't have ADHD, may be exhibiting ADHD-like symptoms, so they're unable to truly focus on the task at hand
Mm,
for a sustained period of time, or to
right.
keep that interest, because after scrolling for so long, you get used to like what's new and everything becomes kind of boring,
Yeah.
right? So this is a problem that we find ourselves with, because you can't just say, ADHD, that's the hyper person, or marginalize them,
Right.
because this
Right.
is in our society, especially after COVID and after
Yeah.
being home for so long, like this is a problem, the focusing and the concentration.
No, and I'm so glad, Lizette, that we're talking about this today, because that's the entire purpose of this podcast, is to bring awareness around this issue, to make people understand what's really it's about, from especially a person who has that condition, how she has overcome it, and how she's helping other people who have that condition to better in life. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation today. And that's really a good segue for my next question, which is really like, how can educators and schools better support students with ADHD? I think that's our kids spend most of their time at school with their teachers, and I always say, especially special education teachers, they are they are driven people, they are compassionate, they want to do that job. That's why they're doing it, because it's not easy. It takes a lot of patience and compassion to work with these kids, and I really appreciate them so much. But I think if they have better tools and better understanding of how to handle and manage better, I think it'll make everybody's lives much more smoother and easier. So what would be your advice to these educators at school to deal with kids who have ADHD?
Well, Ritu, it's complicated,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Uh,
right.
it's complicated. Um, but I think the number one thing is to understand that it's not going to go away, that the students are not trying to misbehave. They're not trying to like not follow the rules. They're not trying to lose the homework in their black hole backpack, right? They're not trying to be a criminal.
Yeah,
So when teachers have a little bit more grace in general for students and have grace for themselves and understand that it's a big conversation to have with parents and to have with the school districts, right?
yeah.
And so, students who have special needs have something called an IEP, right?
Mm-hmm.
An individualized education plan. And so it has modifications and accommodations in place so that students can be successful, right?
Right,
Then
right.
some students have a 504 plan. So they have other issues. Maybe they have diabetes, right? Or like maybe they have dyslexia, and they may have a certain plan in place as well for accommodations and modifications. I
Yeah.
think we should go a step further.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all students should have accommodations and modifications. So for instance, you have to teach now according to not just using technology for the students, but understand that all types of students have different learning styles, right? And so some students may be more kinesthetic, visual, spatial, like it all depends. So you have to kind of like tailor the teachings a little bit more to them, and then be able to put in the executive function system so that they can succeed. Case in point, let's say there's a project that's due. It's like the science project for school. What happens? The project comes home and the parents have to do this like rock cycle or like water cycle. It's a nightmare, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And not the teachers do this, at school and try to teach them. And they'll say, okay, these are the instructions, like kind of go get it done. These are all the materials, but you have to segment the task, right? You have to break things down more. And then you have to see, hey, wait a minute, let's gather all the materials. Can you get them? Do you understand? Do you know the instructions? Read them back to me, right? So all of these kinds of things. And I know that I'm a specialist. I've done this for so long, but I
yeah,
think the school districts can have these like parent meetings and bring them all in and not just like marginalize students and say, hey, let's just do this for the special ed parents. Like, what does that mean?
yeah.
Right? Let's have these for all parents. Let's have these for all administrators because we're all in this together.
Exactly. And all the teachers, not just special education teachers,
All the
right? Yes,
teachers,
yes,
because I also work with gifted students, right?
yeah,
Gifted college students,
right,
and they have tons of executive function challenges.
right.
Everybody does. There's just too much on everybody, right? And
Yeah,
so it's not just to leave it to the teachers and not just to leave it to the parents or not just to leave it to the students. I think if we all come together and say, hey guys, this is a problem for everybody, right? And
yeah,
it's not more work. It's actually going to be easier workflow because it's going to
yeah,
be streamlined.
yeah,
And if it's a different conversation through that executive function lens, the blaming, really lessens, and
yeah.
that really works for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's
So
that's great. Thank you. That was Greatly put, Lizette. Thank you for your answer. And I think it's
Yeah.
going to resonate with everybody who's listening to this. So my next question, Lizette, is actually around your business, Chispa Consulting. Can you tell me a little bit more about Chispa and how it came about, and what is its mission, and how does it help the community and people?
Okay. Well, chispa means spark in Spanish, right?
Okay.
So we spark skills. Basically, I help ignite executive function skills.
Mm,
I know this sounds crazy, but executive function like changed my life. I
right.
love everything executive function because I
Right.
learned so much about my friends and about just different people. Like I can talk about this like all day long. As a matter of fact, I have my husband speaking in executive function terms at home. I just like love it, right?
Right. Right.
And so that's how Chispa was born. It's my passion project,
I see.
right?
Right.
And so what I do is I just help different people achieve their it could be their goals, it could be personal goals, businesses. I help them streamline the workflows with employees. Sometimes people bring in their problems from home, and once they're at work, they just can't emotionally regulate like how they're going to start their day, like what calls they're going to make, especially people that are in the sales business, right?
Right. Right. Right.
They need to like do like a hammer. They need to do what they need to do. But if
Mm,
they don't feel good and if they're disorganized and not managing their time, all of the
right.
workflows are very inefficient, right?
Right.
I
Right.
also work with school districts. I can give workshops. I give keynote addresses. I'm writing a book with someone, a children's book on
I
executive
see.
function. So
Very good. Very good.
yeah,
So your age range goes from, like, what's the youngest person that you have
I
worked
have
with?
worked, yeah, I have worked with as young as like 6 years old.
Mm, mm,
But my focus right now, unless it's a school district, and I'm working with teachers, addressing those challenges, since there's only one of me,
right.
I
Right.
prefer to speak to like a lot of people
Right.
so I can help them. And then I provide immersive workshops just based on anything that you need. I
Okay.
really do tailor. The first thing I like to recommend is that you can even see it like on my website. I offer these executive function test, right, assessments.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
can find out what the profiles are,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then once we have that, then we're able to really go in there and look at the results and really assess what is happening,
I
right?
understand.
And then we're able to put systems in place. And I find that like in the schools, right, in the classrooms, you know how teachers organize systems like where the cubbies are and where the students like hang up their coats and put their backpacks away and where the homework goes. I sort
Yes.
of do the same kind of thing. I'm still teachery.
Right.
I
Right.
do the same kind of thing in like a business context
I
because
see.
I'm sure that people they get there and there's not every system works for everybody, right? So I make stuff a lot more efficient like that.
No, this all makes so much sense, Lizette. And if people have to contact you, I am going to also share your information when I upload our podcast. But yeah, I mean, your can you just tell quickly what's your website address? It's chispaefc.com, right? Is that
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay. So yes, for everybody, that's your first first stop if you want to check out more on what Lizette does and how she can be helpful to either you as a parent, your kid, your business, school, anything. So I think that's really great what you're doing, Lizette. And I'm so thankful that I was able to speak with you today and have you on my podcast. And I know that it's going to be super helpful to everybody who's listening to this. So that brings me to a question which is a little outside of your professional life, since we talked a lot of work today. What is it that keeps you busy outside of work, Lizette? What are some of the things that you're passionate about, and what do you like? How do you spend your time, like free time, if you do have, after all
yeah.
that you do, which is a lot?
I love spending time with my husband, with my bulldog Lola. That's a lot of fun. And my son and I also we have a an educational nonprofit, and so we help college students gain access to elite colleges. So I
And
help them
what
with
is that
executive
called?
function plans. That's
Sure.
called Circle Match.
Circle Match. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And is there a
circlematch.org.
website for that as well? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Good,
dot
good,
org.
good,
And
good.
we're incredible, like the kids that we've worked with. We're at certain school districts and it's really interesting. It's a lot of fun. Just it makes my heart feel good because I remember, being in that place and not knowing the name of like what I have. And I just felt really kind of, broken, like, oh man, I just can't get it together. And
Yeah.
I see when you help other people, like everybody just feels so much better because they kind of really understand that there's nothing wrong with them. They just
Yes.
need to have better systems, right?
Exactly. You
Yeah.
just nailed it there, Lizette, because we not just people who have ADHD diagnoses, even in our regular day-to-day life, all of us struggle with something or the other, and it's just easier if we have tools, if we have system to organize it, and that way everything falls in place, and you can do it much more easier than being like overwhelmed by it. And once that overwhelm feeling comes in, it just makes everything so difficult, right? Even a easier task seems difficult if you are in that, in that space of being overwhelmed and like not knowing what to do next, right? Even if it's a simple task. So no, thank you so much, Lizette, for coming on the show today and sharing all that valuable information with my viewers. And I really hope for you to come back again and again, and to talk on more topics. And yeah, this has been great. So thank you so much. And if you want to say something before I let you go, you're welcome to do that. And then
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone, don't procrastinate.
yes,
I know you're overwhelmed,
yeah,
but like
yeah.
Ritu said, like, at least, at the very least, go on the website, sign up for my newsletter, right? Every month is chock full of morsels, and I'm rolling out a subscription plan.
Yay.
Yeah, that should be starting definitely before the end of the year. So I'm in the middle of doing that. So go to Chispa EFC Executive Function Coach.com, and it's much more than coaching, a lot of free resources, a free executive function guide that you could download when you subscribe to my newsletter. So I look forward to, hearing about you guys.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Great. Great. With
thank you.
that, Lizette, thank you very much again, and I will see you around. Have a
Okay.
great day today. Bye bye.
Bye.